So welcome to August guest session. Really glad to have Jack with us today. You might not know it, but he's been a big part of my resettlement and my journey into the Agile world as a viewer of Everyday Agile and a lot of his YouTube stuff. So I'm really glad to welcome him to the Agile group and as a guest on one of our sessions. And I'm hoping there's going to be some great questions and insights coming out from today's session. Again, like always, before we start, a shout out to Wayne from Millscrum for helping to lead stuff within the group, but also his amazing editing skills will be seen soon when the podcasts go live. So if you want to see that, just send him some pressure in the DMs so you can get a bit quicker on that side. As always, take the opportunity to ask questions throughout all these. Again, the value that you get from this is what we want to see. We do have a list of questions that we'll work through. But again, so for those in attendance, Justin, Alex, thanks so much for your time sharing that with us this evening. And Jack as well, thanks for your time for coming on.
So,
I think the best thing to do, Jack, if that's okay, is if you give a quick introduction to yourself.
Yeah, no problem. I was trying to find something. I'll find it in a minute. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I don't really know what Jake kindly sent me the questions earlier on in the week. So the questions I'm fine with. The intro, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. I think some of the questions will dive a bit deeper, but essentially, the relatively short time in the Navy, 2008 to 2015, left relatively early, so after just 7 years more or less. Went through the FDM pathway, which people seem to still like to talk to me about, but that's one I'll get into that with the questions. Then left there, did a few perm jobs as a Scrum Master. In the meantime, started writing content on LinkedIn, predominantly about resettlement from probably 2016. And then it sort of tailed off in 2020. Again, I can explain the reasons behind that. But that was before the likes of people like Jake were really doing anything, or no one was really doing anything, to be honest. So it depends how long you've been around on LinkedIn, whether you would have seen some of the older stuff. But there's far better people who have started to create much better stuff. So that's part of the reason why I just don't. There's better voices out there. And then started contracting on my own. Started Everyday Agile just as a limited company because every contractor has to have one. And then for some reason, started to attract clients on LinkedIn through the content once it shifted to more agile sort of stuff. But I won't lie, having the ex-forces thing did, whether it's nepotism or some would call it the network, that has got my foot in the door in certain organizations. Then it's scaled beyond that, really. Now I'm trying to maintain, build, and make sure I don't have to go back and get a real job, basically.
You make it sound so light-hearted and so humble about where you've come through that journey.
I mean, yeah. I think that's upbringing, isn't it? I think that's perspective. I think that's, without going into it to social class, I think it's perspective on what the market is and what it isn't, which we can maybe talk about, like what people's expectations are in terms of the day rates. And this isn't something that I haven't said to Jake before, but I was wrong. I wouldn't say it was bad advice, but I gave him the wrong advice, which just shows that everyone's resettlement journey is slightly different. I'll hold my hands up and say, Jake was talking about going contracting straight from leaving the army, and I sort of said, go and cut your teeth as a permie somewhere. Like, it's very hard for me. It'd be very hard for someone like me to justify not putting you on, but selling you. That sounds really bad, doesn't it? But outsourcing you for a really high day rate, and then because they want someone to hit the ground running. So, but I was wrong. Jake has gone on to do that. And so it just shows everyone's resettlement journey is different, I think. So don't take everything, take every bit of advice with a pinch of salt, I would say, as well as take the good bits.
But just to add to that, so I asked your advice. I asked for your advice because I respected your position within the Agile community, but also the work and the journey that you've gone through. So although it may not have been, I wouldn't say it was bad advice, because actually what I took from that was actually I needed to do more preparation in the value that I could deliver as an individual. So not just focusing on me as a service leaver, but your comments at that time spurred me on to.
Yeah, that's why I did it on purpose.
Yeah, there's a chip on my shoulder. It was like, I'm going to prove him wrong. That bastard. But actually, it allowed me to do more prep to go, well, I need to prove myself more, because that's the mindset I need to be in, is that I need to deliver value and hit the ground running. You know, and I'll always be thankful for that conversation we had at that time.
And yeah, it's very kind. And like I said, I was wrong. It's probably I based my advice on what I thought. Like I don't really know if I would change that advice, if I'm being really honest. Depending on, I didn't really know you as I'd seen what you put on LinkedIn. It depends on the person. Would I give you different advice, knowing what I know about you now? No. Would I give the same generic advice? Probably yes.
Again, there's an area of that nepotism, isn't there? There was that service leader network going into a defence contracting role. With that military experience, that could have been that winning part. But this is about you. This is about you, not me on this.
No, but I think it's important, and Wayne as well. You know, it's important to recognise that everyone's journey is different, and that's what I was trying to look for. And if this is going on the podcast or being recorded anyway, it might. So there's a book by John Cohen. And it's the dictionary of obscure sorrows. So he comes up with these different words that describe feelings that you can't always put your finger on. And there's a point to this. There's one called Sonder. So Sonder. And his sort of definition of that is, you're the main character, the protagonist, the star of the centre of your unfolding story. You're surrounded by a supporting cast of friends and family hanging in your immediate orbit. Scattered a little further out, a network of acquaintances who drift in and out of contact over the years, but they are there in the background, faint and out of focus, and they're the extras. The random passerby, each living a life as vivid and complex as your own, they carry on invisibly around you, bearing the accumulated weight of their own ambitions, friends, routines, mistakes, worries, and triumphs, and inherited craziness. When your life moves on to the next scene, theirs flickers in place, wrapped in a cloud of a backstory, of inside jokes and characters strung together, and countless other stories that you'll never be able to see, that you'll never know exist, in which you might appear only once as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing by on the motorway, as a light window at dusk. So it's about the sudden realization, really, that you're not alone in resettlement. Like, even if you walk past people, networking event, they're all, you know, we're all a bit mental, aren't we? We're all insecure. We're all riddled with self-doubt, but we all are on the same journey. I thought I was reading that before, and I thought that was quite apt for the situation some of you will be in.
Very interesting. So what's that dictionary of obscure sorrows?
Yeah. It's just like like just different. I think he's made up words for different thoughts and feelings that we go through, but they haven't got a thought. They haven't got a word attached to them.
Yeah. I've just written that down as definitely something I'm going to look to purchase, even just as a thought-provoking aspect. Yeah. Just going to jump into one of the questions. And it's one that's always intrigued me, is what actually initially set you down this path of Agile?
So I won't say I was the first group with FDM. I'm making a bit of an assumption here that you know what FDM is, but for those who don't, they're an IT consultancy basically who are very keen on graduates, and then they recognise that was transferable skills with the ex-forces with ex-forces basically. So they set up an ex-forces scheme, and the deal was, and people still ask me about it, but I did it in 2014, 2015, so it's probably changed. But at the time, the deal was they give you some training, Prince 2, bit of business analysis, bit of basic SQL, and you go for 2 years on their client with a client, and after that 2 years, the client will either give you a permanent job or you go back on the bench and just stay with FDM really. And I was in Lloyd's at the time, in Bristol, Lloyd's Bank. I think like most people in the Agile space, they start off with Scrum. It started to make sense. It's not really an exciting story, and then just went down the rabbit hole. I think at that point, I'd started. So podcasts were not as popular as they were now, but I'd sort of got onto some of the early ones, like some. I suppose you would describe them as self-help, self-development. There's one called The Body and the Beast, which I still listen to now. It's a business owner and a fitness guy. He's the body, he's the beast, and they sort of share business advice, and they're quite good to listen to. But I was listening to that in like 2015, and Lloyd's weren't doing anything Agile at the time, and my 2 years was coming to an end. So I probably could have got a permanent job there, but it wouldn't have been anything exciting. And then all the LinkedIn stuff started to sort of go hand in hand. So I just aggressively started looking for Scrum Master jobs, really, and then got one.
Okay. So I know it's a long time. Well, I say a long time ago. It was about 10 years ago since you left, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's nice.
Would you? What transferable skills do you remember back from then that have actually benefited you in the Agile space, or if any?
Confidence, I suppose, to having a go. It's speaking to. I suppose it's more the way you conduct yourself in terms of speaking to the highest of the high, as you would the most junior person, as cliche as that sounds. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't always go down to, well, I did go through a point where I tried to change how I talk and like try to change. I haven't really got that much of an accent anyway, but I tried to sort of start using words that I wouldn't normally use to try and impress, and you just get caught out. Like it's just not people like if you just speak to people like you normally would, it goes down quite well. But I think, I wasn't very confident growing up, really. So I think that confidence going, or perceived confidence, that performative confidence, as we all have to do, or had to do in the forces, can really help, as long as you don't overdo it. You know, we had like a saying in the Navy, like the ship's dick, where someone would join really keen, like too keen, and they'd come in and try and change everything too fast, and they'd end up being the ship's dick. And that's what I wanted to try to avoid. I like to think that was never the case. But transferable skills wise, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing no one said before. You know, we're all good communicators. We can all write. We can all get stuff done. But I think it was the recognizing waste. I think we're all pretty good at that, to be fair. Recognize quite a lot of waste early on. But how you communicate that to people who've been doing their job 20 years, you know, you have to be pretty good at communicating that. I wouldn't say there was anything. I was a gunner in the Navy, so there was nothing transferable about that, really, apart from being able to gob off. Persistence, being relentless, all of this stuff that you already know, really. I generally can't think of anything specific that was transferable, apart from having a bit about, really.
And that kind of highlights why the Agile group is there, because it's highlighting that you don't need to be anything special to come into the Agile world. It is
No.
a completely new career option for people that are leaving the military, that can either look at product, can look at delivery, can look at Scrum, and it's another avenue to avoid going down project management, or just to have a little look in, because the
Yeah.
transferable skills are exactly the same. It's just the environment might be slightly different and might actually suit people much better. So they're going to have a bit more longevity within a career that they actually enjoy and deliver value, and might stay in for a bit longer than building Gantt charts and racy matrices and all that good stuff that they find within print
Yeah.
world.
And if you do like all of that other stuff, then project management isn't a dirty word either. You know, there's space for. I think there's enough field for everyone. I think that's why I'm dependent. What do I say? I think that's why I'd like to think, like, the people who are associates with me, they don't work for me because it's a free, like, we've got an associate model, so technically they're all freelance, and they're never going to. It took me a while to accept they're never going to talk about everyday Agile like I do, because why would they? Because they've got their own limited companies to sort out, and it would be pretty arrogant of me to think they're going to do that. But if people are, I think my actions prove that I will support them all. I like to, well, the ones who have got it on LinkedIn. I'm not. You only have to dig a bit deeper to work to put the dots of who do work for us. But I like to think that I will try and support them. As I think you build a lot more by building other people up. Don't get me wrong. If someone does something that I don't agree with, then they won't get it. But I try and build people up as best as I can without it being too much of a problem. I think it's got to work. It's a relationship, isn't it? It's got to work both ways.
Yeah. So that kind of leads on into, you able to give us a bit of an intro to how everyday Agile formed. You mentioned obviously in the contracting world, most contractors have a limited company set up. That makes sense because of outside roles. But from digging a bit deeper, you kind of see that everyday Agile has been through a few different changes of focus over the last 5 to 8 years. You able to give us a bit of a history of where that's come through, sort of journey, and where it is now?
I'd be interested to know what you've, maybe it's the one for another time, what you've seen that those changes are, because some of them have been deliberate, some of them I probably won't even know them myself, but like, no one ever really gives feedback on any of it. Well, some people do, but no one I would sort of want to listen to, but probably get onto that as well. So well, I had an agreement. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say that the main change I saw was Everyday Agile as an Agile consultancy, but then you had Everyday Agile as an L&D training company.
Yeah, I'll get into that. So
yeah.
The LinkedIn stuff, started posting about it, and again, I think this is a growing up thing. Like, I would show my wife like the day rate. Don't forget, this is not the market now. This is back in 2016, 2017, and we didn't believe like that those day rates existed, like £500 a day. Like, she didn't believe me. Really, she did believe me because they were there. I could show her, but it wasn't really sort of. None of us could get our head. Neither of us could get our head around it. So the deal was, she was doing teacher training at the time. She got a teacher job, and then at least the mortgage could be paid, and then I could take a bit more of a risk to go contracting. We were living in Swindon at the time. She was teaching in Newbury. Newbury's really expensive. Swindon is a lot cheaper because it's Swindon. No offense. I had 4 great years there, but it's the gooch, isn't it, between London and Bristol? Like, it's Swindon, but a lovely place. But so the deal was I could take more of a risk once she had a teacher job. And it was a bit of network. It was the network. There was people who had been in my previous role. Swindon's main employer, I think it still probably would be, even though it was a few years ago, is Nationwide Building Society. So they were going through like an agile transformation. and people I knew worked there. I got an interview, and that was my first contracting gig. But I knew I was lucky with that. So if you're thinking about doing it and you get a lucky break like I did, which I did, you have to be thinking ahead. Like that was lucky, and that's where, to be honest, the real work started to try and pull in other clients, because I knew I was fortunate to be given that opportunity. And then just started getting little training gigs here. I did some stuff that, probably would be. I don't think I would get away with some of the stuff now that I did. So, for example, and there's nothing bad, but I did like Scrum Master courses for like a discounted rate a couple of times. Bearing in mind, I knew the stuff. I still know the stuff, but I wasn't a recognised professional Scrum trainer. Because if you go through Scrum.org, as some of you may know, you can go and buy 10 exam codes if you want, and there's a loophole there. So I explored that loophole for a while and did some public courses. Obviously, that generated some interest as well, and then just started picking up little clients here and there. Again, I did some stuff that I probably would never do again, especially when COVID hit, like doing 2 contracts at a time. If I'm being honest, like being a Scrum Master for 2 companies, which for 2 teams each, remotely. Like that was probably the most burnt out I've ever been. Would never, recommend that, and I probably never would do it again. But I did it because I wanted to succeed, and they were really interesting clients. And there was a bit of that, poverty mindset. I didn't want it all to disappear, so I wanted to do anything I could to do it. That market does not exist now. Don't get me wrong. You're lucky to get 1 contract at the moment, but I'm trying to be as truthful as possible. That's what I did, and then just started scaling from there. I made a conscious decision that I wanted to be a business owner, not just a freelancer. So I would introduce me as the owner of Everyday Agile, and I would say, well, you're not going to get me, you're going to get someone even better. And that was the sort of language I had to change. You're like, I'm the face, but I'm going to give you someone who is much better at the job than me, who is going to give you a much better service. And slowly that started to change the perception of Everyday Agile being about me, and Everyday Agile being a thing of itself. Because ultimately, I want it to be a sellable asset. And if it's reliant on me, that's not going to happen.
So what was the trigger going through resettlement that made you think, I want to be a business owner?
Nothing in resettlement. My honest dream, and I haven't cashed in on this promise, my honest thing as a leading hand in the Navy with no sort of relatable qualifications, my career ambition was to be on £50,000 a year. If I'd have hit that, I'd completed it. I had a deal that if I hit 50 grand a year, I could buy a camper van, because that was never going to happen. So she agreed to it. But so it was a very happy accident, to be honest. And it just sort of snowballed into where it has. I've sort of realized what I like doing. I like doing the marketing. I like doing the copywriting. I like running the business. I like getting leads. But like people from Llandudno, where I'm from, they're not really meant to do that. So yeah, that was the ambition. 50 grand a year, completed it originally.
There you go.
Your question,
Jack. Yeah, it's interesting you say that figure exactly was. I remember, I don't know what it was. I think I was about 13 or 14 or 15. I can't remember, but definitely in my later teenage years, and seeing a tennis advert around about so you could do this and earn £50,000 a year. And I was like, wow, that's loads of money. And I remember, like, kind of since I left the military, kind of always trying to strive for that kind of figure. And never thought about becoming a business owner, obviously of Millscrum, but it's as I started studying a bit more about Scrum and working with senior leaders and stuff, and seeing not the bad job or the good job they were doing, but like identifying myself as like I could fulfill that role quite well and or do parts of that better. And started seeing myself as a kind of business owner towards the latter end before I started my business. And that was my driver, is like I could do that, but for myself.
Yeah. I didn't. I think I got to the point where I didn't really like being told what to do either. Like I always wrote about this. Like when I worked in a certain place, I said, "Oh, can I go on this course?" No, costs too much. Well, hang on a minute, mate. You've just spent £2,000 on a coffee machine to put in the staff room, but you're telling me I can't do this course. And that was a very clear line in the sand for me. And that was just before I went contracting. Of if you want anything doing, you're gonna have to do it yourself, really, and put yourself in the best position possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered the question, but that was the original ambition, and I would have been happy with that. Well, I obviously wouldn't have been happy with that, otherwise I wouldn't keep going. But that's what I tell myself.
So, tell us a bit about, even just a short bit about the marketing, because I've loved the marketing that you've thrown out over the last 12 to 18 months. There've been some risky bits, definitely some risky bits. And if you want to mention some of the bits that got you in trouble, it'd be great to hear a bit more about
that. So I think English I always liked English. I think I've always been able, but I never had anywhere to channel it. But I think when I started talking about resettlement, I think that triggered, actually, I can be quite relatable and spin it in a different way. I try and write how I talk. But most of the books here, including this one, are about copywriting, to be honest. That's one of the biggest skills I can probably advise a potential business owner to look at, is because that's the first thing people read, is how you come across, how you're connecting the dots to make people feel something about what you're saying or about your product or service. We are an underdog consultancy. I'm never going to have the marketing budget of the people we're competing with, because they're just massive. Deloitte, big four types of people, McKinsey, Accenture, Wipro, all them sorts of people. I'm never going to be able to compete with that. So you have to, and individually as well, you have to sing a bit of a different tune to get that attention, because they're all doing the same thing. It's all vanilla. It's all not very good, in my opinion. It doesn't grab the attention. So yeah, I think I've just grown. We've got a very clear tone of voice, which obviously did come from me as an individual to start with. But I think now, when you think, what I like to think, when people go on the website, when they go and see what's been done, is a very clear, everyday agile tone of voice as well. It hasn't all gone well, you only have to look through some of the, I'll probably put in a digital van with certain politicians outside an agile conference in Manchester, with like Boris Johnson, and the copy was something like, we're not miracle workers, we can't make everyone agile. And then there was Prince Andrew in a ballerina's outfit saying, we're not miracle workers, you still need to put a sweat on to become agile. Like, probably not the best sort of way to go about it. The about that one. It builds the brand, and I think that's a lot of what people get wrong with marketing. They want the quick gratification. But especially in the market now, I'm targeting people when they've got money in like 6 to 12 months time, and they go, oh yeah, now we can engage with that because we remember them doing that. And some of the most effective stuff has been simple, like putting the bookmarks in books in Manchester Airport, like, creating a character that people can relate to, like Giles, Agiles. Like,
I'm looking forward to the cartoon series of that, Jack, at some point.
yeah. So we did a few comic book strips of that. I did get some marketing help for a short while because I just ran out. Like I didn't. I can do the writing, but the sort of other stuff at the time I did need some help with, but they weren't really. It wasn't really hitting the mark, and the stuff that I'm producing myself was attracting the I was getting more mass engagement, but from people who were never going to buy from me. Whereas you need to be very niche on who is your target, who are you going after, and market towards them, and write things that appeal to their self-interest because they care about themselves ultimately.
I think that's something, Jack, you could. Sorry, Jack. I think that's something you could apply quite well to. Obviously, when you're leaving the forces, you're marketing yourself as an individual, even whether you're going for a permanent role or a contract gig. It's something that you need to master in this digital world, of being able to come across as you are, so you're authentic, but and come across credible as well.
Yeah, and it's quite hard because people attach themselves to it, don't they? Especially in the forces. But when you see like, this is a made up role, but role type SO2 to U.Gov, no one fucking knows what that is apart from you and your little clique. Like what? Like that's useless if you're trying. If you're staying in, that's fine. But when people are searching project managers, your little SO2 to secure side, no one knows what that is. Recruiters definitely don't know what that is. So it's about being, people will only order what's on the menu, and you have to show them what's on the menu. Ultimately, I think. And people don't like it. People don't like. Not many people will take action off the back of this. I don't think it's that hard to stand out. Like it's really like if you for the people who are just listening, this is going to be pointless, but if you put your palms out and touch your fingers together, most people are there. You only have to go a bit further up to stand out. It's really not that difficult because the standard is quite low. Like the barrier to entry of producing good stuff is like you've seen this stuff out there. It's not that hard to pack a bit more of a punch, really.
Just by putting a couple of photos or a bit of an infographic, or some people are putting selfies up on their photos now just to get a bit more traction on the algorithm. It just takes a little bit of effort, just to even a bit of copywriting. The way that you write your posts is going to separate you from the majority of people who post content.
And I don't think there's formulas and there's meth frameworks, if you like, to bring it back to Agile, but there's no. Would never call anyone out for it. Like, as in a nasty. I never punch down. I'll punch up because I think if you're a McKinsey, you can afford to be taken the piss out of. But for individuals, like people do people do you do whatever you want. I don't personally get when people do selfies with content that doesn't relate to it. Like, none of us are stupid. Like, we know what the game is there.
Yeah.
But if it works, you fucking fill your boots. Like if you're a good-looking bastard with you can grate cheese on your abs. I'd probably have my top off all the time as well and write stuff that didn't relate to it. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But if it
that's
works,
why you have to rely on witty banter, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But if it works, it works, and not there's different horses for courses and all of those cliche things. Refining your LinkedIn feed as well. I always say sort of get, and I'm one of those louder voices, I suppose. But if all you're seeing is my stuff and you're trying to target an audience, then get rid of me, because you're missing out on people who are actually asking for your help or posting those jobs or posting those military insight days. I had to, and again, this comes back to the we're not doing as much with the ex-forces stuff. I love what that Gendit network has done for people. I think it's brilliant. However, for me, it was taking over my feed. Like, it's all I was seeing. And as a business owner, you sort of have to take the emotion out of it and be a bit selfish sometimes. And again, I hope that doesn't come across as I truly, hand on heart, believe in what they're doing, but I'm not the audience for it.
Yeah.
So you have to, I hope that comes across in the way I intend. If not, then feel what you feel. But
I'm just going to ask one question, and then hopefully we've got some questions from the floor, because we're reaching 10 past at the moment.
Don't worry.
What would be your top advice for someone that's entering into an Agile career, whether that's delivery, product, Agile project, or Scrum Master? What would be your top advice now?
Get some technical understanding, whether that be technical understanding doesn't mean go and learn how to code. Technical understanding is a broad umbrella. Like, you will all have things that intrinsically interest you when it comes to tech. Let's start there. Now, for me, I like the way things are designed, look, feel, the experience of an app. Well, bloody hell, surprise, surprise. Go and learn a bit about UX and UI, which would still fall under the technical term, the technical sort of umbrella, if you like. If you're a bit more engineering minded, go and, Swift is probably in my opinion, because I can only speak about what I've done, is probably the language of choice if you've got no experience with coding. So Swift programming language is for iOS apps, for iPhone apps. It's the language you write Apple applications with. And there are step-by-step, relatively cheap books out there. And even if you're shit at it, even if you don't like it, even if it frustrates you, you will feel that frustration of the technical team when they can't do something. You will at least be able to empathise with them a bit more. I think, so at least have some technical understanding. That doesn't mean I'm saying go and be a bloody coder or a UX UI designer, but the team will take to you a lot quicker if you can at least relate to them a bit. And Wayne, you might have different views on that, but
no, I agree, Jack. See, I've come from an mechanical engineering background, electrical mechanical engineering background. So when someone says about deploying on Fridays, I think about a tank pack turning up on a Friday afternoon on the tank park, having to fit it in and make sure it works on the weekend exercise they're just about to go on. And it's no different to a software engineer deploying code to their operational base or into production on a Friday, and the stresses that may cause. So, I mean, it's just being able to link your experience to theirs, and find those links and dig a bit deeper.
I'm just trying to find the book about Swift that I've got. Carry on, mate. I'll find it, because I can.
You're giving it away. You're probably giving it away, Jack.
No, it's So this is like iOS 17 development crash course, and it literally takes you through step by step. Download this, click here, and you come up with like a timer app relatively quickly. And it's just something to a couple of minutes a day.
It's also going to be that differentiator when you're in that interview and you're going, yes, I know about Scrum, yes, I know about delivery, yes, I know about product, and they go, okay, so does the other 4 people we're interviewing. So what separates you from these guys? Well, I know you're doing iOS apps. I spent my time looking at Swift or whatever it is, just to enable you to get through the door a bit quicker. Like I said, if it's that easy to do, and just read through a book to understand it. There's no enhanced learning credits need to be spent. There's no week-long course. There's no difficult exam. It's just building that knowledge wherever you can, really. It's interesting you say the technical side, because we recently spoke with Dave Westgarth, and he said a very similar thing about building up the technical understanding to support the teams in those aspects.
So he's got every certificate going, hasn't he? To be
he
fair.
has, yeah, he's just collecting.
I guess it's on.
So it seems to be a common trend in terms of building. It's not just about Scrum and Agile. It is about supporting the team and understanding the team from the technical side as well. So you don't have to be a pro, just enough to speak the language.
I mean, it's in like I said, choose something that you're interested in. Like how the psychology of how these people come up with, like, you know, the design of these things and the flow and why they put certain buttons where. It's, you know, it's relatively interesting if you're into that sort of thing, especially if you're going into a product space. If you're going into a highly regulated project space, then it may not be as easy. But if you're going to work for a product, then definitely worth doing that.
So great advice. I've got a couple more questions, but I'm more than keen to lend over to the rest of the people that are attending. Opening questions to the floor.
Yeah, Jack, I chucked a question into the Q&A. I didn't know if I could capture it, but it needs some context. It needs some context anyway, mate. So I'll just spin it. So I'm still serving, and the army have got their greasy claws into me for at least another couple of years. So I'm not resettling. But I got asked a question recently by somebody that I couldn't answer. So we've just started trying to develop Agile in our workspace. It's you can imagine, a challenging, painful, drawn-out process. But I had a soldier ask me as they're about to leave, or just after they'd signed off, what skills do I need to develop now in the next year to make me employable in this world, because I find this fascinating? And I couldn't answer the question, and I knew this was the perfect time to get the answer for them.
Yeah, probably what I just described, to be honest. I get a better... Well, I mean, it depends how deep you want to go. Why do they find it interesting? Have they seen one of their mates get good money? Is it because it's flavor of the month and, you know, there's loads of LCAS courses being offered out, or is it because he's truly, you know, he likes working in that way? I'll assume it's the latter. Yeah, start like the Scrum fundamentals. You know, relatively easy if they're a good egg. They'll get their head around it. If they can get stuff done, if they're keen, the attitude and stuff won't be a problem. It'll be that, okay, tell me about Figma. I don't know. Figma's where it's a platform where you can come up with prototypes for how applications look. Like little things like that will go a long way. How much do you know about Java? Oh shit! Like that's when the ball will start unraveling. You might be able to answer, or she might be able to answer, how long is a daily Scrum? 15 minutes. What are the 3 roles in Scrum? Actually, their accountability: Scrum Master, Product Owner, Developers. Like that, all that stuff is great, but people will probably dig a bit deeper when the competition in the market is so high. Like the supply of Agile people, practitioners, massively outweighs the demand at the moment.
Yeah. So what can I guess what kind of advice can I give them to set their sights? Because clearly they might be looking at Scrum Masters on LinkedIn, and somebody who has looked at the course quickly online, has watched a couple of your videos. They can't expect to leave and go into Scrum Master role because they're nowhere near that stage, and they've only got a year to reset.
Yeah, fair enough. Look at other roles like PMO, so Project Management Office. It's about change. Yeah, you've got to. I mean, I'm saying that this is exactly the sort of thing I said to Jake, right? And he's gone and got a bloody contract gig. So, but it's about finding out what their or seeing where their expectations are, and trying to see what their tolerance for changing those are. And you can't control the way they think. Ultimately, if they decide to die on that sword, and they're going to be potentially severely disappointed if they don't reset them. But things like junior project manager. A lot. I started off as a project manager and then found Agile. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. PMO, so project management office, doing some more of the admin in the back end. Chief of staff roles or junior chief of staff roles, I would say. Places like FDM, I don't know what their ex-forces scheme is like now, so I can't talk to that. But I think if you go into something like that with your eyes wide open, and you reset those expectations, it can be beneficial. Again, other people jump in because that might not be there.
So I'm going to give one of the best bits of advice. Get them to join the Agile group.
No, yeah, I'm not.
No, but on a genuine note is I would advise them to start looking at delivery manager roles, because then they're going to get a flavour of a large variety of approaches, whether that is project, whether that is Agile, whether that is Scrum. People like Joe Pinder and Marcus Reed, who have been within the Agile group for a while, they've settled at Amy, so it's not Amy as in Korean Amy. We will have our thoughts on that. But Amy is the AI tech company as delivery managers, and you speak to them now, and they absolutely love it, and it's a very varied role, and they get to have hands-on experience of a varied day-to-day approach of dealing with stuff and delivering stuff. So they're building up that niche, or it's not a niche, it's a varied skill set in which they can then take a different path whenever they need to. So that'd be another bit of advice to add on there. It's a role that is more common now within the industry. If you look at last month's newsletter from the Agile group, you'll see that in comparison to project manager or scrum master roles, delivery manager roles are more advertised now, whether that's contract and permanent, because businesses want people to do projects and Agile and Scrum. They want that multi-faceted approach where you can just be able to go in and facilitate a retrospective, but then also put together a project plan, because they don't know what they want. They just want someone just to get stuff done. And having that sort of cross-skilled approach may benefit them as well. But yeah, ultimately, get them in a community practice.
Yeah, so it's useful. I'll pass all that information on once they've joined the Agile group, and then I'll tell them all that.
Yeah. Listen to this back.
And also, I think to join the GenDit network as well.
Yeah.
You alluded to earlier, Jack. I think it's a great for anybody just trying to find out what they want to do when they need.
Yeah. So the Agile group is a spin-off from the GenDit. Me and Chris Shaw speak every other day. And the whole reason why the Agile group came about was because there wasn't that collective space to talk about Agile or what it is or how to get into it. So we had a chat, and rather than creating a GenDit Agile, we created the Agile group. So yeah, absolutely join that for a general view, then niche down to here.
So I've got a couple of questions, if that's possible, and they're sort of bouncing around a little bit. I was typing them as I went, so they're not.
No, that's fine.
As they came up. So I think, without obviously giving figures, but have you seen a significant change in day rates, up or down, post-COVID? And linked to that, is there any difference between the public sector and the private sector?
So the second one, yeah, there is. In terms of jumps, I hear it secondhand, because I'll be honest, I never got to the level where my day rate skyrocketed massively. I think mine probably averaged between 600 and 625. Some people would be on a lot more than that, but I think that goes back to the confidence thing and bringing, I never really pushed it. I get people coming to me now saying, well, I've been on £1,000 a day. And I go back to them and say, well, I'm not even getting £1,000 a day to put you there. So there's definitely no way you're getting that from me.
Yeah.
I think day rates have gone down because it is a buyer's market, if you like. And IR35, without going too much into that on here, although if you want to, I can, that has meant that it has, in some cases, become a a challenge of who can hold their breath the longest to deal with that.
Yeah.
So that's meant that rates have dropped. I've seen some horrendous rates lately. But in saying that, I'm going to correct myself. If you're on £500 a day, you're probably still in the 1% of people who are on that. And I think some of the contractors who I've had to deal with, there's a lot of ego that comes into it. And because they've been on a certain amount before, they think that should be the same now. And that's where I believe they fail themselves as business owners to recognise that it's just like buying a house. I want this house to be worth £1 million, but the market's telling me it's not. So you've got to go with the market. So I think there has been a drop. I think the public sector is reasonably fair. I don't think you're ever going to get, well, I've never known anyone get like into those sort of £8,000-9,000 a day figures in the public sector.
Yeah. So, and I probably I should have done what Alex did. I should have added to the context of where I'm
it's fine.
To where I'm coming from, because then it makes it easier. So I left, I think 7-8 months ago. Sort of stumbled out, wasn't expecting to leave, but left, and have fallen into contracting just by default. But I'm getting into it, and one of the things you discussed was about, and so I've got two questions, I think. First of all, if you're new to contracting, if you got offered a free gig or a gig that was not going to pay, but it would give you experience, would you take it, or actually is there pitfalls and you just say it's not worth it?
It depends what the expectations were, how many days a week, what they wanted from you, why they couldn't,
I think, yeah, sorry. So if you spot something, but the only way you're going to get experience in that field is to say, look, I think I can do this.
Right. Okay. So you're going to them.
Yeah, I'm going to them to say, look, you've got a problem. It's clear. Look at bang. Give me, 2-3 weeks. I think I can make a difference.
No, I'd give them a workshop or two to prove it.
Okay.
Because but that's just me. That doesn't mean it's right. It could pay dividends in the end.
Okay.
Can I check my 5 pence in?
Yeah. So I'll just completely finish my point. I wouldn't do it, but it depends what financial position you're in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on, Wayne, sorry.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that applies to day rate as well, doesn't it, Jack? But that's another story, and we can go down deep into that. But I think from my experience, when I started my company, I had a lull between contracts from when I finished my permanent and me starting my contract role, and I was a bit bored, and I wanted to add an itch to scratch. So I went and delivered a workshop for free with my old core, just to scratch an itch and see if it landed. And it kind of validated some content for me. So I got the benefit of that for me in reward was feedback on what I had to offer. And it was good feedback. And it allowed me to adjust my market offering. So if it's for that purpose, then jab, right hook, as Gary Vaynerchuk would say. Definitely kind of just so you can test out your own content or test out your own theories because they're not validated yet until they're validated, and then you know the value of them. So that's the only time I would probably work for free in that instance, just to validate my own theories and content.
It's an interesting one though. It's made me think. I would probably offer like a couple of lunch and learns, maybe come up with an artifact or a document of what where you think you can help and some initial ideas. That's probably going to take you a couple of days to get it, to get it spot on and say, look, this is totally. Don't expect anything back. I've got no expectation, but this is what I think you need, and this is what I would do. Do it that way. But it depends on your.
Okay.
If you're a millionaire, then go for it.
And probably linked to that, and you're probably in a good place to answer it. And as a contractor, you see a lot of people wanting associates, so they can tap out. Do you find, as the prime in this case, that companies come to you and you, amongst your associates, you don't have that skill set, do you go out and seek it, or do you just decline the work?
Depends what it is.
Yeah, okay.
If they were coming to me for a systems engineer, I'm not gonna wing that.
Right, okay.
Like I'm not like that. I would be fall flat on my face. If
No,
they
but
want,
you wouldn't then go and quickly look for a systems engineer.
I wouldn't know what I
outside.
was looking for.
Right, okay, got it. Okay.
It would. I would have to bring in someone else to make the people I put in, pardon the pun, have to be bulletproof
Right,
as much
okay.
as they can, because I think it's quite. No, I just wouldn't do it. It's not like there's a niche, and that's just me going to stay in the lane.
Okay.
If someone came to me and said I want a Prince2 project manager, then yeah.
Yeah.
But that's probably an extreme. I wouldn't, if they said I need a cybersecurity penetration tester.
Yeah.
I would probably hand them off to someone else.
Okay.
Personally.
Right.
But I think
It's
that's
good.
what.
Just get a feel. It's good.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a good question.
Yeah, and you're staying with the everyday agile brand, aren't you? You're not an associate or a consultancy firm that is there to cover all bases. So you know what you're good at, and you know what your associates are good at. And I know a couple of them, and they are really good at what they do. So
we've had some clangers. Don't get me wrong. We've had some, had some stinkers. But that's for what was it? What Hollyoaks at night, late night. That's for a late night.
Behind the scenes chat, I think.
Yeah.
It's Agile Group After Dark, mate.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, you phrased it better than me.
On that note, we are coming up to the hour mark, and it's been great to have everyone's insights and the questions. And I hate cutting these things short when the conversation's flowing.
I mean, if there's any more, I'm happy to carry on for a bit longer. If you've got more stuff, I'd rather get it out than. But if you haven't, then kindly tell me to go away.
So, can I follow up on one more then? Just so it's all interesting to me. So, just you talked about LinkedIn being your source of work initially, and then I think you a bit like probably Instagram, you could have millions of followers, but actually, they're not going to add any business value. It's only a short community within that might bring work. Do you still think LinkedIn is as valuable as it was back then when you first sort of touched on it, or has it grown too much now for really finding work?
I don't know the stats, but not that many people create content on there. Right. There isn't really an alternative, so it sort of has to be. But it's like I don't think I can admit that it's not the best thing, because I'd be pretty buggered without it. I think there are other ways to go around it now. So we've got like an open, free Slack community where people can. Again, it's just another place for people to go. There's obviously the podcast stuff, which, to be honest, creates a lot more leads, because people come and see. If they don't like me on that, I'm probably not going to like the business, so to speak. Yeah, I think if you use it in the right way, yeah, it's just I don't think many people use it in the right way, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for me, unfortunately for them, because they don't listen. They want to go on there, and again, you do you, but they want to talk about politics. They want to jump on the bandwagons about that bloke, shoot him with his hand in his pocket. That's not marketing. That's jumping on a bandwagon that every other fucker's doing. Like, that's not original. You need to think a bit more. Stand in front of a whiteboard and think about what you want to get across. If LinkedIn Premium, it is worth it because of the unlimited search. I think you only get limited searches on the free account. Searching for niche roles, so chief technology officers, chief product owners, heads of delivery. heads of procurement, because they're decision makers, heads of L&D if you're trying to sell training. Connecting with all the scrum masters in an organization, you're just building a community, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're trying to build you're trying to build leads, I try and think of the analogy of a football ground, and they have a very tiny away section. Your job is to try and expand that away section. There's no point having a network full of people who support you and love you and like what you're doing, but are not going to buy from you. Because dopamine doesn't pay the bills, unfortunately. And that's where you have to be a bit selfish, I think. So yeah, it's good, but if used in the right way. That answer it, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And just a little plug for Jack there. If you haven't seen, Jack's also got the benched LinkedIn page as well. So the other side of Everyday Agile is around the marketing for IT contractors and Agile contractors. So even those are bits of advice that get posted up quite regularly. They make me think twice about posting a photo of the shooter with his hand in his pocket. I haven't done it. I haven't intended to.
I put a meme up the other day about the is it on here? It's like a Family Guy one, and Lewis was looking at the bottle of pills, and it was like Scrum Masters fighting the temptation to do an Olympics themed retro or something like that.
I think Wayne did one the next day.
No, definitely didn't.
It's just gently prodding.
I've gone back to just what do you want to improve, mate? So that's my question there.
Yeah. Anything else?
Alex, any other questions? Oh, cool. The question we always finish with, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, is what's next on the cards for Jack Hughes as an individual?
I can't. This year has been a barrel of bastards. Although you wouldn't know, you wouldn't see that because you put in the questions, and we see a lot of content. Think of it as a pie chart. I only and this is not just me. I think this is a lesson for a lot. You have to come to terms with how much you're willing to share. If you look at the content, it's only ever about Agile or marketing, and occasionally I'll show what's behind the curtain, but I don't know. Just continue to maintain what's maintainable, and looking forward to this year being closed. To be honest, just more of the same, and see out this year with no further problems. I'm fine. It's just been a lot elsewhere. So don't know. Just continue to keep my head above water, and see what 2025 brings.
Start afresh, eh?
Yeah, that's not a woe is me thing, but I just can't answer that question sat here today without. I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair enough. There's only 4 months to go, so fingers crossed it stays
I can't wait.
and maintains.
Yeah, I can't have. Basically, we've part of it's with a very first world problem. We had an extension that was supposed to take 12 weeks. That 12 weeks started in December, and it's still raining inside my house when it rains.
Wow.
So I just can't wait for fucking tradespeople to get out of my house because they're all talk about a case study for non-agile ways of working. Get an extension done. They've all got their own estimates and their own watches.
And none of them tell the same time.
Yeah, well, they all turned up at the same time today, but for all different, they just got on each other's way because they didn't tell me when they were turning up. So that's been like, Agile doesn't work in home improvements. You have to be command and control is the message there.
Nice one to end on, eh?
Yeah.
I think that's a different talk we can talk about, is when you should.
Yeah,
use
that's just me
Agile and
ranting.
not,
That's just
but
me ranting. That's just me in a bad mood.
That's fair. Awesome. We'll close it there, but I think there's definitely more questions. And again, Jack's in the group. He's in the community of practice, so that's what we're trying to get with the community of practice, is those Agile experts that we've got within the group are there to help with those questions and lean into sharing that knowledge when we can. So like always, I really appreciate everyone's time and effort. Taking time out of your busy personal lives to come on and listen to Jack, or listen to me ask Jack questions. Normally he's the one that's interviewing people, but he's getting the questions thrown at him today, which is good.
No, it's been good. I'm pretty. Wayne knows me probably the best out of everyone here. I'm normally pretty. You've actually got me to open up a bit, which is a challenge. So, well done.
I did feel that at the beginning. I did think I've got to try and break into him a bit here. So I'm glad you.
I don't give. I wanted to be as honest as I could be. So thank you.
And appreciate that. Thank you. So we'll close it off now. Again, we've got a lot more coming up in the group. I think we've got about another 12 or 13 guests lined up. We may be starting to do them a bit more frequently, more sort of podcast style. But again, just stay in touch with the group, and we're here to guide, educate, and support. So let us know what you need.
If you ever want to do a live, if you ever want to get a group of people and do a live one where I do mine, that'd be quite cool, I think. Bit of networking, people could come and watch. Get a few people on the sofa.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
An in-person
Liverpool, but also that's a different problem.
That's just logistics.
Yeah.
And if you've got anyone in your networks as well, Alex, the guys that you're supporting, if they want that advice and they want a safe space to talk about that, please do I'll be more than happy to jump on the phone with them, or jump on a Teams call. I'm sure Wayne or Jack potentially when timings allow. So we are here to support everyone that needs a bit of guidance, as long as diaries allow, as long as it's before October 16th, because that's when my little baby's due, and I will probably be a different person after that with more grey hairs. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Again, like I say, I really appreciate everyone's time for coming on and sharing those questions and being open and honest, Jack, like you were. Look forward to the next one coming up very, very soon.
Cheers.
Right. Cheers all.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See you later.